our mission as a company is to make private scholarships a viable alternative to student loans.
Okay. David Tabachnikov, good to see you. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for being on the show. You're actually calling from Serbia, right?
Yes, thank you for having me. And
why Serbia? Why Serbia?
Why Serbia? Actually, to be fair, Serbia is basically has been my base after I left Tel Aviv in 2016. And I've been a digital nomad for quite a while.
A digital nomad, what does that mean, digital nomad?
A digital nomad is somebody who is basically location independent. Somebody who doesn't tie his work or his activities to a specific location, while doing his, like, in most cases, doing his job digitally. So it can be the web developers, marketing, teachers.
So anything that basically just requires a laptop.
Anything that doesn't require you to use your hands to assemble something.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And you're the CEO of ScholarshipOwl, and you've been doing some pretty incredible work to help a lot of people around the world find scholarships and get proper education. So tell me a little bit about that, and what is this world of education?
All right. So I'll start with basically the problem, and the problem is that in the US, specifically, the education is extremely expensive, and substantially more so than in any other country. And in fact, in the past 8 years, the cost of tuition has been growing 8 times faster than the wages.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Well, how much are we talking about tangibly here?
An average family pays per student $26,000
per year.
That's an average per year, right? And I know cases of $70,000 and $90,000 as well.
Right.
Numbers are huge.
Yeah.
To put that into perspective, a master's degree in the UK is capped by £9,000.
Okay.
And that's some of the most expensive education in Europe.
Interesting. Okay. So why is that? Yes. So why is that though an issue? So yeah, I mean, you can say you want to go to a better university, you're gonna have to pay more. Are there not options that are financially viable for everybody? Is that the issue?
So there are all kinds of government programs, and there's a subject of student loans as well, which has been talked a lot.
Right.
And student loans is basically an attempt of the government and private companies to help students pay those high tuition costs.
I believe actually that the student debt is the second largest debt in the US, if not the most.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. No, it's the second one. It's $1.7 trillion.
Trillion dollars.
$1 trillion.
It's a big market to go after, David.
It's more than many countries in the world, right? And it's been growing by around $100 billion a year for the past 5 years.
Crazy.
It's crazy numbers. It's crazy numbers. But the thing is that the student loan industry, in a way, it's the one that drives the tuition costs up, because the more loans are available, the more money the universities are taking, because they know that the students can afford to take more money in loans.
Interesting. Okay, wait. So what you're describing here is this vicious cycle where there's more loan programs, whether it's by banks or by government. The universities see that and say, okay, well, actually now every kid on the block can just go get a loan from the bank, pay it over 30, 40 years. So why don't we just raise the tuition, because they can just get a bigger loan, and now we're gonna but it's just vicious, obviously.
But you said it right. Every kid on the block. So basically, you're telling a 17-year-old kid, now take $100,000 in loan that you will need to pay with huge interest. We're talking like 8 to 14% interest. It's huge interest. Like, you have no
insane,
no credit history, no other measurement of how will you.
That's right. That's right.
So how do you calculate the interest? And that's how you end up with very, very high interest on that.
Wow.
And you ask that from a 17-year-old kid, like, to make the decisions. Of course, he's going to be talking to his parents and so on, but at the end of the day...
But it's not a fair decision because that kid needs an education. And if this is the only way to get an education, then it doesn't matter what the interest rate is. Even if it's 20%, you have to do it. Otherwise, you don't have a chance here.
And let's be honest, like, most families do not have $26,000 lying around per year.
Most families don't have $400 to pay in an emergency fund if the car breaks down. I heard that in one of my economics classes. I was shocked beyond belief.
Exactly.
$400 most families don't have as emergency money. I think, I just want to decide, that we grew up in a considerably more privileged world than 4 billion people here, where we can go out to restaurants, we can eat, we can go to university, we can study, and we're engineers. And I think it's sometimes also for me, it's easy to forget that a lot of others don't have these opportunities. And that's why I'm also so excited about what you're doing with ScholarshipOwl to level the playing field and allow everybody there.
Exactly. Now, student loans is one, like you said, it's a vicious cycle. But part of the money obviously comes, from savings that the parents are beginning the savings programs from when the kid is born. Part of that comes from different types of scholarships. And scholarships, there's a few different types. Some of them are institutional scholarships given by the college, by the state, by the government, and so on. And some of them are private, given either by private companies or philanthropy funds, but different organizations which are not related to the education system itself directly.
Right.
Basically, any company can give out, or any brand can give out a scholarship, and they do it in many cases either because it's considered a donation, so they get tax breaks on that.
Okay.
Either because they want to get the message across in different ways. You have a scholarship to not to drink and drive, for example. So they want students to get the message. They offer a scholarship.
What does that mean? Wait. What does that mean, a scholarship with the conception of don't drink and drive?
Basically, in order to apply to many of those scholarships, you need to do something to actually apply. In many cases, it can be either an essay or an image.
That's what the students have to do. The students apply, the students write the essay or fill out the application.
Exactly, yes. But the organization that offers the scholarship decides what the requirements are going to be.
Okay.
So if your organization that tries to fight accidents caused by the drunk drivers, you can make the scholarship, the requirement for the scholarship to write an essay on why drinking and driving is bad.
Okay.
Which means the students will need to research that, learn about it, write an essay about it, and they get the message across.
That makes sense. Okay.
And unlike just putting a TV ad or something saying, don't drink and drive, making a scholarship for that causes the student to get to you to hear your message.
Right.
To actually, internalize the message.
Sure.
So that's kind of one side of that equation. The other side is that this scholarship in the end goes to a student. In most cases, those outside scholarships are between $1,000 and $5,000. Mm-hmm. No, you don't need to repay them. You don't need to anything but
right. It's a scholarship. It's a grant.
It's a scholarship.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the amount of students that are awarded the scholarships are very limited.
Of course. So where do you come in? So where do you come into this equation? Because there's a lot of scholarships, there's a lot of students, and there's a lot of big mishmash balagan on matching them.
Right. Exactly. And that's exactly what.
Did I catch the problem right?
You caught the problem precisely.
Okay.
The thing is that finding all the scholarships with all the requirements and all the eligibility rules they have, just going to them, it's a full-time job.
Right.
No student can do that. Right?
Of course.
And on top of that, if you go to the easy scholarships, like the no essay ones or the ones with very easy, there's tens of thousands of students that apply to them. So a huge amount of competition, and they maybe award 5 of them.
Right.
That's kind of the problem. What we have done is we mapped all those kinds of scholarships with all the requirements, eligibility, and so on. And when the students comes to us, we build a profile of the student, and we match the students with all the scholarships that the student is eligible to. Now, they still need to do some of the work. They still need to write an essay. They still need to do,
of course,
maybe record the video and so on. But given the data we have, we will show him and recommend the student the scholarship that he has the highest chance of winning.
So you'll ask the student, hey, give us a little bit of who are you? What are your interests? What are your passions? Tell us everything you can tell us. And then we know of the 10,000 possible scholarships and we know what they're looking for. So we can give you the top 10 so that you don't have to go to the other 990, right? Or the 9,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we go the extra mile here because other than knowing the 10,000 or what, tens of thousands of scholarships.
Right.
We also have, millions of students on the platform. So we know how many other students are eligible for each scholarship.
Okay.
So the narrower the rules, the higher the chances that you will win.
Right.
Which means that if you invest the same 20 minutes into writing an essay on a scholarship that has 10,000 applicants versus a scholarship that have 100.
So David, it's like Waze, right? You know that there is a lot of traffic in one lane, you go to the other, and this works well because you worked for Waze. So now I see where you got where you got the inspiration.
Definitely, it's Waze for scholarship.
I love it.
Yes, we're trying to show you this. Actually, that's our slogan, right? It's the fastest route to scholarships.
Okay, see, I can come work for you.
Exactly that.
All right.
You're welcome.
David,
love that.
Future Minds. Talk to me about that. That's your newest venture.
I will touch, just before we go to Future Minds, ScholarshipOwl is our student site.
Yeah.
And last year we launched Scholarship App, which is our brand and organization site, which is basically a CRM and a CMS that helps organizations to offer scholarships easily. Basically to manage the scholarship itself, manage the applicants, manage the award the winners and so on.
Right.
And we offered Scholarship App completely for free, okay? With the intention to make the private scholarship space as transparent and trustworthy as possible. So basically, like any organization or company can come over and within 15 minutes publish a scholarship and offer it, basically increasing the amount of supply of scholarships to the demand from the students. So basically, we connect the two sides.
Okay.
And
amazing.
Our mission as a company is to make private scholarships a viable alternative to student loans.
Yeah.
So a student goes to our platform and if for now doesn't replace the student loans completely, at least takes a substantial bite out of student loans and owes a lot less.
But David, how is the market balanced? So how many students, so every year, how much money do students need in scholarships and how much money is available through the 10,000 possible scholarships? Is it about the same amount? Or because in my mind, I would imagine there is a huge disparity.
So some of the students we work with have won tens of thousands of dollars just in private scholarships. Some of the advisors we worked with got hundreds of thousands of dollars in private scholarships. Mm-hmm. The majority of students get nothing, if at all.
Yeah.
And that disparity is exactly because of that, because it's so hard to know what to apply to. If you have a good system and you know what you're doing, you will win scholarships.
Okay.
And
obviously every amount helps. It doesn't even have to be even. I don't need the full ride, but even just getting me there substantially reduces the stress, the anxiety, but also, the confidence that I need to go and get my academic education.
We like to think of it that way. $1,000 in scholarships was worth $1,500 in student loans.
Makes sense. Because and that's, I guess, mainly looking at the interest, right?
It's not just the interest. It's, well, first, you anyway need to invest the work, right? If you apply to a scholarship, you need to invest. It becomes front-loaded. You need to invest the work at the beginning.
Right.
If you go the student loan route, you need to pay it later with interest, when you're in a different place in your life.
Yeah.
Basically, you start paying your student loans, well, depends on many conditions, but basically half a year after you graduate.
Sure.
Or if you drop out, which and the statistics of dropping out are pretty awful, right?
Okay.
And in fact, 41% of the students that drop out are dropping out because of financial reasons.
Wow, that's insane. No, but David, but I do want to add also, in my mind, I can see the viability of the psychological aspect of it. You're getting a scholarship as for any amount, whether it's $1,000 or $10,000. That vote of confidence that somebody's giving you and saying, "I believe in you. Go and get your education." I think that has some impact. But I can't believe we only have about 5 minutes left, and we have to do Future Minds. And I want to talk about the fact that you're completely remote, which in the age of COVID and the new 2020, it's so relevant. But first, Future Minds. Tell me what this is about.
So, you mentioned COVID. This week we launched Future Minds Fund, which is based on the infrastructure and the products we already have. It's a non-profit organization which is made to help students that were impacted by COVID-19 finish their education. We believe that if the students that will drop out because of COVID won't finish their education, we won't have professionals tomorrow to build the world. We won't have the future researchers to cure the next pandemic.
Right.
And we have to save this generation because the students of 2020 were hurt the most in 20 years. Like, it's the impact that this pandemic had on the students is bigger than on many other areas of life.
Right.
And Future Minds Fund is built in a way that through our platforms, students can apply to those scholarships. We began by launching 3 scholarships ourselves, which were targeted at students that lost their income while studying. So if you had a side job or things like that, and you lost it, and you cannot finish your studies because of that.
Right.
As students that had to rearrange their whole living situation because they needed to now study from home.
Right.
You used to study in the library or in the
now you need a desk. You need a chair. You need a desk. You need a
desk. You need a chair. You need a laptop. You need maybe some books. There's a lot of things you need, which you didn't count for.
Sure.
And like you said, $400 can be a lot of money.
Sure.
And now suddenly you need to set up the whole environment.
Totally.
So we launched 3 scholarships by ourselves. Basically, the scholarships that are targeted at helping students that lost their side income during the studies, because many the students are dependent on side income.
And you had 6,000 applicants, right?
And we had over 6,000 applicants for 1 weekend alone.
1 weekend.
So we saw.
And these are of students that were impacted by COVID and they need assistance to complete their studies. This is not just any random person.
Only COVID.
Crazy.
Like the scholarships we launched are only COVID-19 related.
So where's this headed? Can other organizations come and also provide scholarships?
After we saw the demand, which was way bigger than we anticipated, we reached out to a few other organizations in the higher education space to help us out. In that way, we've been able to award 19 scholarships ourselves. But when we saw the potential of that, we decided to open it to the general public.
Yeah.
And we'll launch a nonprofit organization and a fund dedicated to that, on which anybody basically can go to our website, see the story of each student separately, like how he was impacted, what happened.
And then it's like a GoFundMe where they can sponsor a student. Exactly. I love it. Exactly. And then you're creating the personal attachment.
It's a public funding campaign for students.
I love it. David, very inspiring. Do you see this specific for COVID and that's it? Do you see this on the long term as a way for students to share their story and get assistance for education? Where do you see this going?
I mean, our immediate goal was to help the students who are impacted now, but I don't see why that wouldn't become a more permanent thing.
Right.
Helping different causes and helping students impacted by different situations or conditions that are happening.
I love it.
In the US.
Yeah, David. Very quickly, how long have you been with ScholarshipOwl, or has the company been living as a whole?
I've been with ScholarshipOwl since 2015.
And how many people are in it?
We're now 35 people.
35 people, and everybody's remote, right?
All remote, as I like to say, we're spread from Vegas to Bali.
I love it. Okay, so David, we're going to have to do another episode, which will be featured a few months from now, where we only talk about this remote thing, because I think that is just as relevant to this whole new 2020, and I need to learn how to start working full-time remote, because I think we all have to learn that now.
I think that COVID has basically accelerated the remote workspace Tens of years within 1 year.
Unbelievable. David, right before we leave, I need 3 words that you would best describe yourself. And I'm going to ask you the same question in a few months when we do the next episode, so make sure to be consistent.
I'll watch the recording to remember, right? 3 words that describe myself. Ginger.
Fair.
Committed. And curious.
I love it. Gingy, committed and curious.
Right.
Beautiful. David, thank you very much. Toda raba. And best of luck with ScholarshipOwl. I really hope you get to help these thousands of students now during COVID, and thank you for the work that you're doing for the millions of others that need assistance on a yearly basis going into college. I think you're doing a great service to all of them. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you in a few months.